Apotheosis Chapter 45. Su Lingyun was bent over her desk, writing at a high speed. Today, she was wearing a bright purple dress with auspicious clouds. Her fairy-like face revealed a bit of tiredness. Looking at the mountainous pile of tasks on her desk, Su Lingyun clenched her teeth. Xiao Yufeng's instructors were coincidentally out today, so all the work was handed over to her to handle. Su Lingyun was very clear that this was all that guy's doing. Trying to force her to surrender with heavy work. No way. Just as Su Lingyun was working hard, Luo Zheng suddenly appeared at the door. Seeing the purple figure bent over her desk, he knocked on the door. Dong dong dong. Su Lingyun raised her head and saw that it was Luo Zheng. Her face revealed a strange expression. Luo Zheng, what are you doing here? Luo Zheng stepped forward and said, Instructor Su, I want to accept a task. Accept a task? Su Lingyun blinked her eyes and smiled. Actually, you don't need to be so anxious. The outer sect disciples will soon be giving out medicinal pills. Those medicinal pills will be enough for you to cultivate. Generally speaking, the outer sect disciples who had just entered the Blue Cloud sect would rarely be in a hurry to do a task. Because at this time, the outer sect disciples' strength was relatively low. Even if they accepted a task, they could only accept a few simple tasks. The points awarded were relatively small, so the gains did not make up for the losses. It was better to peacefully cultivate on Xiao Yufeng. Luo Zheng shook his head and said, What I want is not medicinal pills. What I need are points. Luo Zheng had that wonderful profound weapon physique. Ordinary medicinal pills were nothing in his eyes. Although the Blue Cloud sect was rich and overbearing, even the medicinal pills distributed by the outer sect disciples were much better than the medicinal pills of the outer sect families. But no matter how good the medicinal pills were, they could not be compared to the Heaven and Earth Fortune pill. As long as Luo Zheng was beaten, he would be like the Luo Zheng who swallowed the Heaven and Earth Fortune pill. Naturally, he did not need them. Why are you in such a hurry to get points? Su Lingyun was a little long-winded today. I just need points, Luo Zheng said. He was more than anxious. He needed 1,000,000 points. Of course, reaching over 1,000,000 points was something that was extremely far in the future. However, right now, he still had to obtain 100 points. Admittedly, with his current power, he couldn't rescue Luo Yan from Purgatory Mountain, but a visit should be enough, right? Seeing Luo Zheng being so stubborn, Su Lingyun didn't say anything. She reached out and opened a booklet beside her. She turned it in front of Luo Zheng and said in her crisp voice, This booklet contains the most basic missions. You can choose one mission from it. Luo Zheng stared at them. The missions were all written with a brush. Each vertical row represented a mission. Take care of the Li family's residence. 3 days, 3 points. Escort. Help Fu Wei escort agency deliver goods. 7 days, 7 points. When he saw these points, Luo Zheng almost spat out blood. The points awarded from these missions were just too little. 1 point a day. If Luo Zheng wanted to rely on these missions to earn 100 points, it would still take more than 3 months. If he relied on these missions to rescue Luo Yan, then it might take 1,000,000 days. What? You think the points aren't enough? Everyone has this type of feeling at the start, but you'll slowly get used to it. Su Lingyun smiled brilliantly. Her smile was extremely beautiful, but Luo Zheng seemed a bit like an unscrupulous merchant. In fact, those points were not small. 3 points could be exchanged for 6 square crystal stones. For some small families, 6 square crystal stones were also a huge sum of money. What's more, the Blue Cloud sect had to take a certain amount of fees in the middle according to the proportion. The actual expenses of others were actually larger. Are there any missions that give a bit more points? Luo Zheng asked in an extremely conflicted manner. There are, but unfortunately, you can't accept them. Su Lingyun waved her hand and said. At this moment, Luo Zheng only had the points in his eyes. He didn't care if he could accept the missions or not. He quickly said, How do you know if you haven't tried? Can you at least let me take a look first? Although Luo Zheng's request was somewhat unreasonable, Su Lingyun still took out another booklet and showed it to Luo Zheng. Luo Zheng looked at the points at the bottom. The first mission actually gave 200 points. However, when he saw the mission requirements, he was immediately dumbfounded. Mission: hunt down the Shadow Beast and obtain a complete Shadow Beast skin. The Shadow Beast was a special creature in the eastern region of the Eastern region. They lived in the Shadow Forest. These Shadow Beasts' reproductive ability wasn't strong, so there weren't many of them. However, their individual strength was extremely terrifying. It was said that even Xiantian Mystic Realm cultivators would find it difficult to come back alive after entering the Shadow Forest. He looked at the next mission, which also gave him 200 points, but the mission requirement was to hunt down a criminal who had been famous for many years. Luo Zheng couldn't accept these missions at all. However, when Luo Zheng continued to look, he found that there was another mission below. The reward for this mission wasn't a fixed number. It could range from 1 point to over 1,000 points. Only when Luo Zheng looked carefully did he understand that this mission's requirement was actually to resist the bug tide. The insect tide was a huge problem that plagued the southern part of the empire. Every year in April and May, a large number of blade insects would flood in from the blazing south, bringing a devastating disaster to the southern region. Although the blade insects had the word insect in their name, they were definitely not as simple as insects. This was because each blade insect was about the size of an adult human. In order to resist the invasion of these blade insects, the empire would send a large number of troops to the south every year to eliminate the blade insects. However, the empire's troops alone weren't enough. The Blue Cloud sect also sent a lot of people over. That was why there was such a mission in the mission column. Killing 20 blade insects will give me 1 point, and killing a blade insect leader will give me 1 point. Luo Zheng's mind was rapidly calculating. After a while, Luo Zheng said to Su Lingyun, "Instructor Su, I plan to accept the mission to resist the insect tide." Upon hearing Luo Zheng's words, Su Lingyun blinked her eyes and said with a mocking smile, "You really know how to choose. I guess you can only accept this mission out of all the missions in this book." Luo Zheng smiled and didn't deny it. In order to earn points, he couldn't care less. Instructor Su was still smiling a moment ago, but now her expression suddenly changed. "You're not allowed to go." Luo Zheng's smile stiffened on his face. He asked blankly, "Why? Do you think blade insects are so easy to kill?" There are indeed some half-step Xiantian cultivators who will accept these missions, but the mortality rate is as high as 60%. Do you understand what I mean? Su Lingyun stared into Luo Zheng's eyes and said. With Luo Zheng's strength, killing blade insects. It was simply throwing away his life. I understand. Luo Zheng nodded silently. It's good that you understand. Su Lingyun nodded with satisfaction and prepared to take the book away. However, Luo Zheng reached out and pressed down on the book. But I still want to accept this mission. Su Lingyun didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She scolded in an unladylike manner, "What the hell do you understand? In short, you're not allowed to go." Luo Zheng said with a dignified expression, "Instructor Su, I know you're thinking for my safety, but I really need points. Therefore, I have to accept this mission, whether you agree or not." Seeing Luo Zheng's expression, Su Lingyun's pretty eyes revealed a puzzled expression. "Why do you need points so urgently?" Luo Zheng shook his head and didn't want to answer. He just stood there like a block of wood, motionless. It seemed that he wasn't going to leave until he accepted this mission. "You don't want to say. Don't even think about accepting this mission." Su Lingyun also had a headache. This guy was as stubborn as an ox. "Instructor Su, I must accept this mission," Luo Zheng said repeatedly. Su Lingyun didn't feel like arguing with Luo Zheng anymore. She lowered her head, picked up the pen, and began to get busy. Therefore, Luo Zheng and Su Lingyun actually spent their time here. For the whole day, the two didn't say a word. Su Lingyun was busy with her own things, as if Luo Zheng didn't exist. Luo Zheng stood next to her like a statue, motionless. This strange situation continued until the evening. Su Lingyun moved her body and coldly glanced at Luo Zheng. To be honest, Su Lingyun appreciated Luo Zheng very much from the first time they met. But now, Su Lingyun had some feelings of disgust. It was true that Luo Zheng's strength, the speed of his progress, and the perseverance he showed when facing the enemy were all excellent performances. But now, in Su Lingyun's opinion, the reason why Luo Zheng wanted to accept this mission as soon as possible was just to hone himself and prove himself faster. There was nothing wrong with this, but Su Lingyun felt that he was too eager for quick success and instant benefits. Su Lingyun didn't feel like paying attention to Luo Zheng. She was about to leave. But when she walked to the door, her head became hot. She turned around and threw a shiny token at Luo Zheng. "If you want to die, no one will stop you." Su Lingyun was very conceited about her insight. She knew that Luo Zheng's strength was far more than what he showed, but the insect tide mission was very dangerous. There weren't only ordinary blade insects in the insect tide, there were even more powerful creatures. The probability of Luo Zheng being injured and dying was very high. When Su Lingyun was calm, she would never allow Luo Zheng to participate in this mission. The problem was that Luo Zheng's eagerness for quick success and instant benefits made Su Lingyun a little angry. She became hot-headed. Women were always emotional creatures. Throwing the token at Luo Zheng was just an act of pique. Soon, Su Lingyun felt some regret. After all, Luo Zheng was a disciple she had painstakingly snatched back. It wasn't worth it to send him to his death like this. But when she turned her head and saw Luo Zheng happily accepting the token, she once again rolled her eyes at Luo Zheng in a very unladylike manner and disappeared from the courtyard. Luo Zheng wasn't a fool. He clearly felt Mentor Su's mood.